Hi there, and welcome to today's session from Progress MarkLogic, Data Hub Strategy for Effective AI and Analytics Governance. Data governance has been around for over a decade now, and nothing has underscored the urgency and clear, effective data governance for business readiness more than the push for generative AI and AI in general seen last year. Certainly, last year was the AI rush. I think in 2024, we're going to take a more experienced approach at looking at AI in general. And I think you're going to see more questions of ethics of data collection, the use and the how you're going to tackle the risks associated from a security point of view in your business, but also data quality and a data richness as well. I'm going to take you through this quickly. If you've got any questions, then please feel free to put them into the chat. I'll get David on camera at the end of this to talk to him about your questions, about anything you see in this presentation. So please feel free to put them in the chat throughout. Quick disclaimer, there's mention of security in here and things like that. None of this constitutes sort of legal advice. Please feel free to consult your own internal legal teams or external counsel if you need those. It's really talking about the proposition of our technology. And so with that, I'll hand over to David. David, it's over to you.
So thank you. My name is David Carrott. I'm here to talk today about data governance, both in general and with an emphasis on the role it plays within generative AI projects. We'll also discuss how Progress MarkLogic can help. We'll start with a quick overview of Gen AI and why data governance is important to it, enterprise data challenges and the need for data governance. We'll also discuss the role of data hubs and how MarkLogic can help with data validity, security, and access. On to the webinar. So what is data governance? To start, it's a big subject. At a high level, it's about the policies and frameworks that optimize the creation, processing, and consumption of data. Today, we're focused on it from a data processing and access perspective. While they are critically important, these other aspects will not be covered here. Data governance has a variety of goals and properly implemented can provide many benefits. These include improved data quality, standard approaches to modeling and describing data, compliance with regulatory and internal requirements, optimal data access, and improved risk management. Data governance works within a complex framework of people, processes, technology, and data architectures. It covers ethics, risk, trust, and the training of employees, and a lot more. Moving on to generative AI. When building enterprise-level Gen AI projects, data governance is critical to getting the best answers possible while protecting the company's intellectual IP and customer privacy. Let's talk about why. As everyone knows, Gen AI is a hot topic and people are putting a lot of effort into building their Gen AI applications. So let's do a quick review of the issues facing those using and creating Gen AI projects. So just to include governance in this discussion, this quote from Gartner predicts the majority of AI implementations will fail because of their governance frameworks. As to Gen AI itself, it is a powerful new technology which offers a lot of benefits. However, the answers it provides users are by no means perfect. Some issues come about largely because of Gen AI's statistical nature. Many of the statements it makes are based on the statistical analysis of the data it was built on. These issues include hallucinations, which are when the Gen AI application asserts things which are not true. In some situations, this happens a lot. A lack of understandability and explainability of Gen AI answers is also a natural byproduct of its statistical approach. Another limitation is data cutoffs. It is time-consuming and expensive to train Gen AI models, so this is only done occasionally. That out-of-the-box Gen AI is not useful when very recent data is needed. Data biases and robustness may impact results because Gen AI models are not trained against all the data, but just what the model creators had available. A final and critical issue is that public Gen AI systems do not have access to all the private data held by users, and so do not include them in their reasoning. While Gen AI has these issues, they can be greatly minimized. There are two main approaches to this. The first is training your own models. The second is using retrieval augmented generation, called RAG, to feed the application data just before it answers a question. Because of the cost and effort of training your own model, that is not commonly done these days, so we'll focus on the RAG approach. This slide shows how RAG works. Users do not directly query the GenAI application, but instead send their queries to an intermediary application. That application engages in what is called prompt engineering and can involve changing the query so it gets better results. Prompt engineering also involves the intermediary application querying its own data stores and providing those along with the question to the GenAI model. This approach allows a firm to use sensitive data without exposing it. It also helps guarantee the GenAI application bases its analysis on the best data possible. Data governance is critical to ensuring that prompt engineering has access to the best data. So what kind of data infrastructure does your GenAI application need? For many applications, you will need to have access to up-to-the-date, possibly real-time data. In order to have a sustainable GenAI application, you cannot be tied to a single model. They're changing all the time. As new models come along, it is essential to be able to support them. In many cases, users who use GenAI to help create context will be required to explain why the content is correct. Because GenAI is statistical in nature, a pure GenAI approach will struggle to do this. Having a data infrastructure which can feed your GenAI implementation with data that is human understandable and which can be deterministic is essential. Finally, your firm has lots of data spread out over many systems. For your GenAI application to give the best results, it must have access to all that data. Your firm has data it does not wish to share with the public. Some of this is because it contains your intellectual IP and you do not want your competitors having access to it. Some because it contains private customer information. If you base your analytics, decisions, and content on platforms that do not have access to your most critical data, you will get second-rate results. If you make this data freely available to your GenAI system, it will provide it to anyone who asks about it. So you have a problem. To avoid this, you need an approach in which the GenAI application only has access to critical information when it's actually answering a question. Now that we have reviewed the needs of a first-class GenAI system, let's look at how data governance and MarkLogic fits in. If you've been paying attention, you'll notice the needs of GenAI are very similar to the needs of data governance. So in today's world, data comes from many sources, is complex, and was often created by those with different needs and goals than its ultimate consumers. As a result, it can be hard for users to obtain the data they need. Machine learning researchers, business analysts, creators of financial risk reports, and many others are forced to make data preparation and access a major part of their jobs. This results in lost productivity and missed deadlines. Securing the data infrastructure can be a nightmare. These are the issues data governance is trying to solve. Specifically, issues like when is it valid to use data from a specific source, how to manage constantly changing data, how to harmonize data and build golden records, allowing access while respecting privacy concerns. These are also the needs of a first-class GenAI implementation. Now that we have covered the kind of problems data governance is focused on, what is it? Data governance is the process of managing data over its life cycle. At a high level, this can be thought of as enabling three goals: data validity, protection, and access. Let's take a quick look at each of these and then do a deeper dive. Data validity is far more than having technically accurate values. Even if a data element is accurate for the use for which it was created, it may still be invalid to use it in other situations. Things that can make data that was valid in their original use case invalid in others include context, data harmonization issues, data lineage, and completeness. There is no need to explain why it is critical for a firm to protect its data. The news is full of stories on customer and other information being hacked. Internal users sometimes illegitimately access proprietary data, causing liabilities for a firm. Data protection is a key aspect of data governance. Data comes in many forms: relational, XML, JSON, geospatial, PDF, Word, Excel, and plain text. It's spread out over multiple silos. Making decisions based on subsets of data can lead to bad choices. Being able to conveniently access all the firm's data as an integrated whole is a critical goal of data governance. Federated access allows your workforce to have access to the data they need to drive operations and decision-making, and it also balances innovation with control and ensures only the right people have access to sensitive data. So why are the challenges data governance solves so difficult? There are many reasons, but the underlying structure of how data is stored and used is a major cause and makes solutions difficult. Data technology silos greatly complicate data governance. Much of a firm's data was created for a specific purpose and was not formatted or linked to other data in a way that allows it to be used for other use cases. When data changes in the primary source, those changes are often not propagated to other copies of the data. As data is moved, it is often transformed and enriched in ways that can make data inconsistent throughout the organization. The data may exist in databases, PDF files, operational systems, company websites, and other locations, making it hard to understand, combine, and query as a single whole. Security of the data infrastructure can be compromised by any silo. All of this can be disastrous and lead to low-quality analytics and decisions. Optimal data governance imposes many obligations on a firm's IT infrastructure. What kind of technology do we need to handle them? The infrastructure needs the ability to easily load all kinds of data without endless pre-processing. Bringing together data from multiple sources will lead to redundant, duplicate data, which needs to be identified and handled. The system needs to be smart enough to help users navigate and do discovery on large amounts of diverse data. Much of the data is sensitive and needs to be easily secured. The infrastructure needs to be able to track the history of the data. In some situations, incoming data will lead to real-time alerts being issued. So let's start by talking about data hubs. A data hub is a central store which combines data originating from multiple sources, is harmonized, and accessed as a unified whole. Data hubs provide security and curated data access. Data hubs can provide a variety of benefits. This includes a single point of access, data structured for the needs of the hub's users, and security. Especially important is enhanced data quality from having all data harmonized and enriched according to a single standard. So where does MarkLogic fit into this picture? MarkLogic simplifies the handling of data from different sources and types, bringing them into a single whole in an agile fashion. It provides security, harmonization, deduplication, lineage, and much more. MarkLogic greatly improves data access in complex data situations. Data integration is the core to data validity. Data integration can be done in very different ways depending on user needs. MarkLogic supports two different approaches to hubs, integration through the Data Hub platform and also semaphore-based semantic integration. With semantic data integration, data may continue to be stored in diverse silos, but semantic rules are defined explaining how the different sources can be used together. Most importantly, this includes building master ontologies to link the vocabularies used in the silos. The ontologies can also be used to categorize individual documents and records, allowing them to be accurately queried with a single vocabulary. This approach is much more lightweight than the Data Hub approach we'll discuss next, and it can be implemented more quickly. Except for categorization, the semantic data integration approach is not usually focused on individual documents. A pure semantic approach to data integration does not typically involve maintaining a record of transformations of data in individual documents, for example. The ability to use all your data when making decisions or performing analytics is a critical governance goal. In many data infrastructures, converting unstructured data into a structured form and combining it with other structured and semi-structured data is a major issue. A semantic approach to data integration can greatly simplify this by providing the ability to isolate and extract data. At a more global level, when creating 360 views of data from diverse, changing sources, it is essential that your data platform understand all your data and how individual data elements are related. There are two key aspects to this. ontologies to create a domain-level understanding of the data and categorization of individual documents and records so they can be easily discovered and accessed. Without this type of infrastructure, users will often thrash about, unable to find and access needed data, even when it exists. So this slide shows a common semaphore architecture. Entity models are created and stored and used to classify documents and extract facts, and it provides a common language for querying data and also an infrastructure to link data so related information can be accessed together as a single whole. This slide shows a MarkLogic data hub. We're on to the second approach. For a quick overview of MarkLogic, our goal is to simplify complex data. MarkLogic allows users to load relational, unstructured, semantic, and semi-structured XML and JSON data to create a single unified hub. MarkLogic provides tools to define data models, transformations of incoming data, deduplication of data, and a lot of other capabilities. With the Data Hub platform, problems like inconsistently named elements and fields, varying formats, deduplicating data, tracking changes to data records can be resolved. The Data Hub and semantic integration approaches can and often are used together to provide more powerful implementations. The Data Hub provides the tools to solve many data quality issues. It creates uniform data from multiple diverse platforms, solving a major governance challenge. Deduplication is performed upon ingest and is not a separate process. Lineage can automatically be tracked, and MarkLogic provides world-class security. MarkLogic brings agile to data modeling and harmonization. Modeling in MarkLogic is done with MarkLogic's entity services, which provides an easy-to-use abstraction layer where much of the modeling can be done by domain experts. The overall approach to modeling and harmonization is as follows. The original as-is data is ingested and never lost and is stored with the rest of the data in the document. A data model is created which reflects the needs of immediate deliverables. This data model includes the harmonization and data enrichment needed to bring incoming data into conformation with the data model. The golden records, which are then created, are stored alongside the original as-is data. As new needs are identified, the model is enhanced. The Data Hub always reflects the new model, both for new and existing data. Because the original data is always available, documents and records can be reprocessed as the model is updated. SQL access is automatically provided for all attributes in the model. Additionally, SQL access can be extended to cover any attributes in the data, even when they're not in the model. This integration of modeling and harmonization is fundamentally different than the approaches used by most platforms, and is a key differentiator as it allowed for data hubs to be deployed quickly and easily while being easily enhanced. Smart mastering is a part of the Data Hub platform. It can deduplicate records as they are ingested. With smart mastering, all versions of the data used to create a golden record can be stored with it, so data stewards and others can easily verify results. Smart mastering uses a user-defined model to determine the similarity between two objects and then can automatically merge them, mark them for review, or conclude they are not the same entity. For example, when determining if two customer IDs refer to the same person, smart mastering may compare addresses, age, medical condition, or other factors depending on what's available. Smart mastering maintains the original entity data so that merging decisions can be easily evaluated or reversed. Today, firms need first-class data quality and the ability to immediately understand the history of their data. Instead, they often have infrastructures where questions like, where did the data in this report come from, or why are these queries giving inconsistent results, are often answered with don't know, or we need a team to figure that out. Lineage is a hard problem for the same reason harmonization is an issue. Most firms spread their data out into silos, which hold similar data but are stored in different models and processed differently. Histories of transformations to the data are stored separately and are not available. It is often impossible to query a data set as it existed in the past to see how it has changed. MarkLogic offers superb lineage capabilities. This is because MarkLogic stores both the original as-is data and the derived curated data in the same underlying document. Tracking of changes to data can be done automatically without the need for coding, and lineage information is stored alongside the as-is and curated data. Lineage information is stored according to the Bravo standard, so it can be integrated with other products, other applications in your firm. With MarkLogic, it can always be possible to determine where a data value came from. Was it in the original data, or did it come about from a transformation or enhancement later on? In most data platforms, the original data, the transformations done to the data, and the curated data are all stored separately from each other, and lineage and original data is often difficult to obtain. Many compliance queries require a firm to show the results, what the results would have been at a point in the past. What did you know and when did you know it? This can be a daunting task as the data and IT systems processing it have evolved over the previous months or years. When there are schema changes involved, relational-based systems can require restoring an older version of the database and its software. While this sometimes works, it is cumbersome and difficult. In contrast, MarkLogic provides robust temporal functionality which can greatly enhance a firm's ability to respond to regulators. So let's talk security. Why is maintaining security hard? Blame is usually assigned to things like not changing a default password or employees going rogue. While these are real issues, an underlying problem that compounds it is infrastructures that are hard to secure. As with harmonization, data and technology silos mean that instead of a single point of failure, there are many. MarkLogic provides a single platform for consolidating and handling all kinds of data. This helps enable greater security. Beyond reducing the number of silos, MarkLogic offers enhanced security overall. It provides a role-based model that integrates with your existing security infrastructure, which facilitates row and column level security. It also allows you to track how users are accessing your data. Additionally, everything is encrypted, both on disk and in flight. Unlike many products, MarkLogic provides its security mechanisms at the database level. You cannot bypass a view and just look at sensitive data. This hugely simplifies the creation of a secure data infrastructure. MarkLogic compartment security allows for the handling of complex data access rules. When security requirements are just too complex to handle with rules, you can create a report with specific data in it and manually determine who should have access to it. MarkLogic query-based access control helps facilitate this process. Sometimes you need to expose sensitive data while protecting privacy. Maybe you need to do aggregates on a sensitive field. MarkLogic redaction can handle any need of this type. There are many regulatory and compliance use cases where it's important to understand when users change or view data. Keeping track of failed logins is essential for spotting attempted security breaches. MarkLogic comes with full auditing abilities down to the ability to show who looked at which documents. When users know that critical data is tracked at this level, it not only helps track down wrongdoing, but provides a deterrent. With MarkLogic, firms have access to the full spectrum of auditing capabilities required by audit regulators. Providing governance policies that enable users to have secure, robust, and easy access to high-quality data is a critical goal for data governance. For users to find answers, they may need to combine their geospatial, relational, text, semi-structured, and semantic data. An agile data platform needs to be able to do this on the fly in response to changing business needs and changes to the underlying data set. Most implementation with advanced analytics handle this with multiple data and technology stacks. Each data type is handled separately, and the responsibility for integrating the data and the technologies used to access the data is left to the application development team. A single hub storing all your data together can offer a powerful solution to the problem. MarkLogic provides wrappers around the complexity of multiple data types and access techniques and allows all of them to be handled as a single whole. The first step in this is any data modeled in the data hub is automatically available as SQL views. Beyond that, the MarkLogic Optic API allows queries to access many data types and return the results as SQL views or other formats like JSON, depending on user needs. With the Optic API, all of your data can be queried together far easier and with less expertise needed by your firm, and with end users often only needing a knowledge of SQL. When a user is faced with terabytes or petabytes of diverse and inconsistently formatted data, it can be a near impossible task to even understand what is available, much less isolate and extract the needed data. An important element to bringing order to these data sets is using semantics to enable data discovery on top of documents and SQL data. For example, users often struggle to find the data they're looking for because they don't think about it the way content producers do. When doing searches and queries, they'll use different terms than what the documents are indexed to and miss results. If you've ever used Google and typed something and there were only low quality results, even though you know the stuff is out there, you face this problem. And semantics can help you overcome this challenge. Using semantics to drive searches and queries allows the data platform to respond to what users are really looking for, not just to what they typed. When these triples are loaded into MarkLogic, searches and queries can be automatically expanded to incorporate the knowledge they provide. In the example on the screen, when users query for bond and high yield with a financial products ontology, this can easily be expanded to include munis, debt securities, and junk, and making sure you get the right answers. Incorporating your or others' knowledge of your industry helps dramatically improve your search results. So if anyone has any questions, now is the time.
Thank you, David. I think you're having an issue with your camera at the moment, so unfortunately, it will just be my face, and David will be a voice in the dark. But if you could turn on your microphone at least, then we can hear your dulcet tones.
Yep.
We've got a few questions coming in, and please feel free to send in more. But some of those questions I'll just bring up now. So the first one was, does MarkLogic integrate with other data governance tools that are out there?
Yeah, this is very common. So generally, large firms will have central firm-wide tools that are monitoring governance on a firm-wide basis. And then MarkLogic will come in and do governance for the applications that it's controlling the data for. And so in most cases, we absolutely can and do send data to the other things and receive data from them. As we discussed in the webinar, MarkLogic Lineage, for example, is based on the Bravo standards. So like Bravo is part of Cloudera, for example. So any application that understands Bravo lineage data will understand what MarkLogic is sending it. And then beyond that, we work with products like Libra and others and can integrate with them very much. And the general rule is we are tracking things at a very fine level, and it's often the case that these enterprise-wide tools don't want to know the detail of every single record in your database. They want a more general approach, and so we provide them with what they need.
Gotcha. So they're looking at sort of business policies and things like that. We're looking at more around the sort of the minutiae of the data. Okay, great. There's another one here, and it's a Gen AI question, because of course it is. But there are new Gen AI approaches to governance that promise to do the work with little effort. I think it's more of a statement, but is it? What's your sort of response to that?
Sure. So Gen AI is certainly has the potential to revolutionize a lot of things and make it a lot easier. And that applies to many parts of governance as well. And as we discussed, though, there are limits to this. And in this context, the key, and in most contexts, the key limits are hallucinations and a lack of explainability. And so if your governance tool is making things up and is setting up rules and nobody can understand why those rules are there, then you're going to get into trouble. Okay. And so what we suggest is that you do want to take advantage of what Gen AI has to offer. And so you use Gen AI to automate some things, and then, for example, building an ontology that you can use Gen AI to suggest a whole lot of candidate terms for your ontology. And,
Right.
and it will do it faster than hiring a lot of people. Will do it and a lot cheaper. But then you really want something like MarkLogic on top of all that, so that you're generating a lot of the bulk work, you're getting some stuff done fast, but then before you actually deploy anything, you want it to be in a framework which is deterministic, understandable, so that if anybody comes to you with questions, you can tell it why the system is doing what it's doing. And so that's basically, so the Gen AI has a role, and you should use it where appropriate, but don't just turn everything over to it, because it makes mistakes, and those mistakes can be very bad in highly regulated situations, or where you really care about the answers.
Yeah. And this is kind of a process question and a technology question, I guess. But governance is such a big subject. Where should my team and I start?
Yeah, it's an important question, because a lot of these kind of projects fail. Big data projects fail. Governance, the bigger the range of data you're accessing, those things often fail. And the one reason why they fail is because they try to do too much. That they try to, what people call boiling the ocean, and you'll never do it because there's so much work, and you can boil all you want and you'll never make a noticeable difference. And the MarkLogic approach to handling this is being agile. And so agile is very common in the programming world, and MarkLogic supports that, but we also bring it to data. And there's not that much agile in data, especially if you go to relational, everything is waterfall. And so the way you work in MarkLogic is you pick a high value implementation that can be done quickly and implement it, have a success, get the people behind you, because that's an important part of this question, is how do you keep the momentum going? How do you keep the funding coming for doing this? And if you take 5 years before you deliver anything, then you're working someplace else because they let you go, basically. And so what you really want to do is get those high value implementations, get them done quickly. But then the whole point of MarkLogic is it's not a silo. You build on that, you make it work more and more. And so going back to an ontology, a very common place people want to start is to have a common vocabulary across the enterprise, that you have all these internal silos. They were developed by different people. The same piece of data is described differently in different silos. And so it's just impossible, or even if you dump everything in one place, you can't access it because it's done in an incompatible way. And so a quick way to get that, a first step, is to build a common enterprise vocabulary that understands this is the firm-wide way of saying it, and here's the 7 other ways that are of saying it in 7 different data silos. So you start with things like that, and then get it up and running, and then now your users see real value. They're happy to come back to you to build on top of that. And then another one is just taking all your data and starting to dump it into one data hub. So now it's in one place, and you can actually start doing data discovery. So that would be with our data hub product, that it's very easy just to load the data in there. And then once the data is in there, you can start modeling it and harmonizing it as you need it. You don't have to do everything all at once. You say, what are the queries? What are the most important queries I want to run this year? You load all your data in there, and then you just do the harmonization and the standardization needed to make those queries run. And then once those are running, then you can extend your harmonization and make it useful for more and more queries.
Yeah. And I guess with MarkLogic, as you kind of mentioned or touched on, it's kind of, you're not building a point solution. So unlike other tools that we mentioned, the data governance tools, these aren't point solutions. These aren't endpoints to the development. This is building a platform for your business. So once you have that data, you know that it's governed, then you can start rolling that out to the business with confidence that that governance is going to remain, which I think is a really interesting point.
Yeah, the key to MarkLogic is go for the quick wins and build on it.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, a huge problem. There's an awful lot of people who've lost their jobs because after 3-4 years, they had nothing to show because they were trying to do too much all at once. Or a lot of people just build small point solutions that then just become part of the problem because you have to, if you want enterprise access to your data, now your single point solution has to be integrated into a bigger one.
Yeah, and I think there's teams of experts. David is just one of them, but there's people in here that've got plenty of experience building with MarkLogic, and we often say to customers, use us in terms of helping you define out some of the project goals and things like that, that we know that we can achieve for you, so you can show that success back to the business. And secure that funding and make sure you can then develop further onwards with it. So yeah, no, that's really good. I think that's it for the questions. Let me just, if I can throw up my screen again. Thank you very much, David. I know you see these. This is kind of a whistle-stop tour masterclass. I think David views these as a kind of intro into data governance. As a part of that, I know we've got another data governance session next week. That's with our sister technology Semaphore. So that'll be really interesting. That's driving business value with modern data governance. So it's definitely worth checking that out. Speaking of AI and all things LLM, we've got an AI roundtable on the 7th of March, featuring various different experts here within MarkLogic who have worked on developing solutions with MarkLogic and LLM tools. So that should be a really interesting conversation. And I know, David, you're thinking of newer topics or evolution to the topic you've already covered for future presentations as well. So yeah, I think this is just the start of this series. So thank you very much, David, for taking the time to speak with us today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Hope that you can make these upcoming events. If you can't, please register and we'll make sure we'll get you the on-demand recording when that goes live. David, audience, thank you very much. And yeah, we'll see you again soon.
Thank you. I hope it was helpful.